Hello buddies, in this video I will show you my PvP build for Fighter Dreadnought. I think for me it's the best build I came up with. There's others build that are as good as this one, but for me it's the build that works the most for me. And I will show you what I mean. I finished first in the last season with a good KDA, so just bear that in mind. I will show you the build. So for the buffs, let's start with the buffs. I use Watermelon Sorbet, Superior Flask of Potency, the Seared Tuna, that's a stronghold food, and the Wild Storm Elixir. I know that the Watermelon Sorbet can be quite expensive, but that's what I use. And it gives a bunch of power and a bunch of accuracy. So for the gear, I use the Bless Whisper Hood of Quiet that gives 7.5% accuracy and 5% movement speed when you hit other people hard. And in PvP, you might say that it doesn't really proc often, but personally I do quite a lot of damage, so for me it procs quite a lot. But there is also a good alternative, it's the Cheater's Fang. You can get it from the Umu's Hunt, from the spider in Umu. So that's a good helmet that reflects damage when you get hit. Some people use it, but I prefer to use this one because I like to burst down people, and in the current PvP there's a lot of clerics that are really hard to kill, so having more burst damage more quickly kills them more frequently. And I use the Devil Precision for the 5% critical chance and plus 5% accuracy, and I use Dark and Accuracy modification. The Bless Bountiful Ribcage gives a lot of critical strike and critical severity. The proccing rate is the same as the Hood of Quiet, but it gives a critical strike and crit severity instead, and it's 12.5, which is really big. I use the Bless Arms of the Last Resistance. It gives a 5% power and defense when there's no teammates around me within 30 feet. And 30 feet is quite small. You might like fight with your teammates, but still being 30 feet apart, it's really small radius, so that it's active quite a lot. And modification critical strike. And with the utility, I'll play with the dark, and the overload you can play with anything you want. You can play with more damage, or you can play with the PvP overloads. I just switch them depending on what strong DPS is in the other team. Like if there's a strong barb, I use this one so they do less damage to me. If there's a strong fighter, I use this one. If there's a strong rogue, I use this one. A ranger and so on. Paladin, I do more damage to paladin, or yeah, there's a bunch of overloads you can use depending on what class you want to counter most. And for the weapon set, I use a drown set. I haven't used it for the entire season. I just used the Lionheart set. Lionheart set is a pretty good set, but a lot of people use drown set because it gives a bunch of healing, and healing in PvP is really strong. So maybe I will start to use it more frequent in the future to see how well it does. And I use the AV/ modification. And for the enchants, I use the Draconics, because Draconics gives power, accuracy, and critical severity, which are 3 stats that are pretty strong in PvP. And I use a Vorpal, but you can also use other weapon enchantment like the Holy Avenger. Holy Avenger is pretty strong. Or you can use the Bile Thorn, but I use the Vorpal for the entire season, so I loved it quite a lot. And for the offhand, I use a critical strike bonus and a 2.5% action point gain, but you can play with anything you want. If you want Forte, you can. If you want retard speed, you can, but I just prefer to have my daily back more frequently because daily on a fighter is pretty strong. And I use the Wisp of the Shadow Demon, because when you get hit by a critical strike, you have a 10% chance to gain 20% more hit points and 3% defense, which is pretty strong. But the entire season I play with the Boots of the Herald, which gives 1k defense for each of my teammates, which is 5k defense, and also give them 1k defense. But I will play with the Wisp of the Shadow Demon next season, and I'll play with accuracy modification and darks. For the artifacts, I use the Envenom because getting the daily back really fast is really strong on fighter, because you can use the fighter's recovery or mow down, just your choice. Oh, sorry, it's second wind. Second wind is really strong. And while I use the Envenom, I also use the other books for the raw power, the maximum hit points, and also do an additional hit for weapon damage on a critical hit, and also like the other set bonus, the increase attribute by 1, and the other set bonus. There's a bunch of set bonuses on having three books. And for the fourth artifacts, it's your choice. There's where is it? Sigil of the Cleric. It gives like insanely high stats. I think it might be bugged. I think it's patched on PC, but when it's patched, you can play with the Wheel of Element because it gives a 7.5% stamina regen, and having stamina regen, it's pretty strong on fighter. You want to use like your stamina most of the time, so having it regening pretty fast is always good. For the neck, I use the Mastered Bronzewood with awareness modification because awareness is just to counter certain classes like rogues that have basically permanent combat advantage against you, or warlocks that have powers that gives them free combat advantage. So I just do awareness, and also on fighter you don't really use your combat advantage bonus much because you cannot really proc it alone compared to other classes that can. And I play with an assassin here, but I think I meant to play with the draconic instead of assassin, but assassin is also good too, but draconic is I think better. Here Ring of the Fallen power, getting like 5k power for almost doing nothing. It's pretty strong, so I use that with the combat advantage, and draconic in both offensive slots. Ring of the Overwhelm +5. Since I move a lot in PvP, I get this bonus quite often. 10% increased damage reduction as long as I'm running is really strong. And awareness modification, defense, and defense with Azor's enchantments. And I play with the Mastered Bronzewood Sash +1. You can play with the normal version, it's just that I like to max my tune, so I just play with the +1 version, but it's basically the same bonus set, it's just the item level that it's a bit different. So if we see, oh yeah, I forgot to say the bonus about the Bronzewood Sash, the Bronzewood set. It's when you use an encounter power, you get a stack which gains like 1% accuracy and 5% movement speed. And it's stacked 3 times, so you can get 3% accuracy and 15% movement speed, which is really good in PvP because the more movement speed you have, the better you are basically, because you can run to nodes faster and things like that. And also accuracy is really strong on fighter, so I play with this set. But there's also the other set, I don't remember, the Lichstone set that gives like more constitution. It gives the same bonus, but it gives 4 points of constitution instead of like strength and dexterity. But I prefer to have strength and dexterity to do more damage. For the tunic, I use the encounter, the thing that reduces encounter cooldowns. But you can play with any other set, any other like shirt. For the pants, I use those one that gives just defense, gives some action point, and Azors and defense. For the powers, I use greater endurance because running fast is always good, and vigorous strikes to get a 10% more critical strike when your stamina is full and decrease. Like if you have less stamina, that's really strong to burst people. So I use it. I use bull charge, shield throw, and anvil of doom. There's other people are playing with a lot of stuff. Like I know some people play with shield slam, but I prefer to use a shield throw. But shield throw gets countered easily with elven battle, so you might think about maybe another encounter power like into the fray, which is really good. But those are the three I'm using. And for the at wheels, reeve and heavy slash. And daily, most of the time I use mow down, but when I'm in trouble I use second wind to regen my hit points. For the feats, the weight of vengeance is really strong for Anvil of Doom to do like really high bursts of damage. Ricochet, so my shield throw can hit multiple targets, and when I hit multiple targets with reeve, I basically get like 3 shield throw, so I can just spam them if there's like multiple people in a pack, so that's really fun to do. And I use crushing blows so I can do more damage, but it also means that my vengeance is decreasing quite a lot, but I like the extra damage. Line Wester, it doesn't matter which one you use here because you don't use any of them basically. Bloody Reprise, so when my vengeance is below 50%, I instantly get it to like 75%. So that's it procs quite often when I use like Anvil of Doom, and after that I use Shield Throw, so I get it back. I get back my vengeance, so I don't need to wait for it to come back. Because when you have a vengeance above 50%, your damage dealt is increased by 20%, so you want always your vengeance to be above 50%. But also for the class features, that's the 2 I play, but if you really want, you can play with momentum. It just boosts the damage of bull charge, but it removes the power to knockback. But the power to knockback is really strong, so if you want to run faster, you can, but you will be less powerful to control targets. For the boons, you can take a screenshot of those boons. It's pretty straightforward. Power, accuracy, critical severity, critical strike, with some hit points, some defense. Play with Forte plus action point gain because I like dailies. Movement speed, control resistance, and the most important one is lingering medicine. So basically when you use a potion in PvP, you have like some chances to proc the lingering medicine, and it's like the most overpowered thing. You basically get, if it procs, you get like 30k to 32k hit points back like each second for 30 seconds. So you can basically get your entire health back just with this proc of lingering medicine. And if you're wondering, like the other two, if they are strong, basically this one gives you like 7.5k hit points, which is not a lot, and lingering power gives you 2.5k power. So I mean, you can play with 3 of them, but just the bonus they give at rank 5, they're not as powerful as lingering medicine. So I just use 1. And Master Boon, of course, the Bloodlust. So the Gil Boon, I use critical strike, defense, movement speed, because I like to arrive to nodes faster. I know that some people are playing with the healing potion bonus, so your healing potions heal you more. But I don't have it in my guild, so I just use more movement speed. And for the other PvP boon, I play with this enhance overload PvP ward because it reduces even more the damage of classes that I want to counter. Like if I use the overload that gives like that debuff a fighter by 10% damage, basically it debuffs them 10% extra, so it goes up to 20% damage reduction for the fighters that hit me. So that's really strong to counter certain classes. On Xbox we have like really good HR and really good like Barb, so I just switch between the Rangers and Barb with that so they can do less damage to me. For the PvP boon, play with defense, critical severity, and critical strike. I play with the AP gain 6% plus the control resist 6%, and the tier 3 5% more like damage, incoming damage is reduced by 5%. So for the companion doesn't follow you in PvP, but the item level does. So what I do after like balancing my stats, I figure that the best way the best way is to basically just run with one companion piece and to remove the other two. And here the potent precision doesn't like follow you, so you don't have to. You can play with anything. It just gives item level to you. That's it. Doesn't give the bonus. It's the same for companions. It doesn't give you the bonuses. It's just there to give item level. So and for the so you can play with any like companion bonuses. It just doesn't matter in PvP. And for the mounts, I use brutality for all the things that cannot be dominance insignias, like crescent, brutality, dominance, and brutality. Here I use an aggression because aggression is pretty strong, and I just don't have another illuminated insignia of dominance to use. So I just use this one, critical strike, critical severity. It's pretty strong with 2 brutality, champion's return, survivor's blessing, gladiator's guile, oppressor reprieve, and another gladiator's guile, so I can run a bit faster and regen my stamina a bit faster too. And dominance, brutality, dominance, 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 brutality, dominance, brutality, dominance, with the 5 mythic colors, just to have more damage, but you don't need 5 mythic colors to do good. I play on an alt and I'm doing quite good, and I'm just using like 1 mythic or 2 mythics, so you don't have to use them. I use a toad because toads are still really strong in PvP, especially if you can proc all of your buffs before using it. It can do more damage, and rapid accuracy, so I can get more accuracy. So I think I forgot, yeah, strength and constitution, because it's strong to have more hit points and having more stamina regen and physical damage boost. I like it. So those are my stats in PvP. Do I have still the buffs? Yeah, for 1 minute. I need to be quick. So those are my buffs. I get like almost cap crit severity when my chest procs. Really high crit strike when my chest procs. Really high accuracy when everything procs. And I have capped power basically when I have everything proc. Like my gloves, my ring that gives 5k power. So everything here procs. And I have a bunch of defense, awareness, and a bunch of hit points too, which is also important. So yeah, I hope I don't forget anything. And my race is human because it gives 1% in every single stats, so it's pretty strong too. I think that's the end of it. Yeah. Hope you liked the video, and I will see you to another one. So bye bye.